what's the week after spring break? And then, you know what, let's do the 30th.
30th is a Saturday.
I mean, 29th.
29th, okay. Early April, notice will be given to the recipients. Acceptance deadline will be 1 week after notice.
Yeah,
So
okay.
mid-April will be fellowship orientation.
Scholarship notice, what?
That,
Is donor dependent?
yeah, you know how
Oh,
sometimes.
my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, scholarships. Scholarships are kind of their own
But typically
thing.
May-ish. Alright, we're good.
And then I'm just going over the actual.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about the summer fellowships and the scholarships since they're slightly different?
Yeah, that's okay. And who's going first?
Do you want to go first? I
No.
don't want to go first.
I know you don't.
Because my stuff is exceptions to the usual fellowship rules.
You know what? I'm happy to go first. I am prepared. I just need to have it saved in my thumb drive.
Gotcha.
I've been doing it for minutes. There we go. And then I think Jared's gonna wanna be able to get to
The website,
the
yeah.
website.
Okay,
Website.
that's fine. One here.
Well, me and you and I, have lunch.
Yeah, anytime. Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, that was on the 8th.
So
After the Tuesday.
okay. You know, yeah, just so we can post this too. Are we capturing this?
Yeah, so, and we'll pick up your voice unless you're wearing this.
I'll trade off.
Okay.
With Jared.
Well, handhelds there too, but otherwise.
Which one? Can you guys hear me? Okay. I haven't seen you guys in a while. How was fall break? It's been about that long. So this is one of those sync sessions we referred to during orientation way back when, talking about scholarships and fellowships that you all can apply for the 2019-2020 academic cycle. I believe they're capturing this on video, and so I'm going to repeat your question so it gets into the mic and know that you can refer to it. I'm not too sure when they'll have it posted or available. I'll go first. Barbara will follow me, and then Jaron will talk about some of the details for the GA or the fellowship application process. Okay? All right, so this is the Ship Sync session. Barbara really liked that picture when I first put it up. Obviously, it's not that great anymore. So we're going to talk about definitions regarding things that we refer to very commonly, namely scholarships, fellowships, the differences between the two, and trying to acknowledge where we talk about things differently than the university does. Some of the rules and the requirements for both of those, what I see as our primary two parts of financial support for you guys, scholarships and fellowships. The applications for those, and then the deadlines and the timelines. It's fairly succinct. In terms of definitions, we have, generally speaking, 4 categories of financial support for you guys. Scholarships, which is the free money. Fellowships, we refer to as things that you receive as a result of you doing something for them. And in most cases, it's working. And in most cases, it's working as what the university calls a graduate assistantship. But we refer to those as fellowships. But there can also be fellowships that are part of your summer experience, where you can get financial support for low-paying or non-paying public service work, things like that. But it's not compensation. It's for the purposes to help support you because you're not earning compensation to pay for apartments, things like that. But those are the 2 categories of fellowship and what we are typically referring to there. Then there are awards. Awards are gifts. We refer to awards separate from scholarships in these 2 primary ways. For scholarships, you have merit scholarships and need-based scholarships. Merit scholarships can either be renewable scholarships that you received as part of the admissions process, or scholarships for a term, either a semester or for a year. And then there's our need-based scholarships that you apply for, and it's part of the need-based financial aid process, where you're also getting the loans processed through the Office of Financial Aid for the university. Awards are typically less than $1,000, most typically around $500, between $250 and $500. And those are mostly awarded, or notice is given in the spring, but we also have them throughout the rest of the year as gifts come up. And then finally, there are university and external entities that support you guys. Okay, so for merit scholarships, there used to be an old rule that we didn't allow stacking. And what we refer to, and the reason I'm bringing this up is when you're talking to 3L students, they were subject to this rule. So you may get some confusing information when you're talking to members of the class of 2019. And they had their first year experience where they couldn't stack scholarships. You can stack scholarships. And it's not absolutely being able to add all scholarships together. There are some rules associated with that. And this is how it works. Stacking is going to be allowed with a scholarship and a fellowship, or vice versa. The one exception with the scholarship that you get is that the top 10% scholarship award cannot be stacked with others because of the way that scholarship is defined. The top 10% scholarship goes to students who are in the top 10% of their class based on spring grades after they've been posted for those students who don't have any other scholarship that has a tuition benefit accompanying it. It's our kind of little safety net to assure that if somebody's performing that well academically, they don't get left out in the cold. It's a very small number of students typically, but those students don't get to stack a top 10% award with a GA award or another scholarship. But all others are eligible in terms of scholarships with fellowships. Awards can stack with anything. They can stack with another award, they can stack with another scholarship that has a tuition benefit, and either need-based or merit-based, and they can also stack with a fellowship. Need-based awards or scholarships can be stacked with one semester scholarships, merit scholarships that have tuition benefits. And that's a budgetary rule that we don't have enough money in our budget to have need-based scholarships for people who demonstrate continuing need also have, if they have a full year scholarship with a tuition benefit. If our financial situation improves, hopefully we can remove that rule. But for now, recommendation is always apply for need-based scholarship. We'll see where you are on the merit side of awarding, and if you're eligible for it, you will get it, and if not, you'll be notified. For all of our awards that you apply for, you will always be informed whether or not you are receiving an award. So when you apply for a need-based scholarship, you will get notice of whether you will get a need-based scholarship or not. If you apply for a merit scholarship, you will be notified of whether you've been awarded one or not. So with an application, there will always be notice one way or another. And then here's another rule. Because you can have stacking, for some people who get larger scholarships that kick in what the graduate school calls 100% tuition benefits, know that if you were to stack a graduate assistantship, and this will make more sense when I show you a couple of slides. When you get a graduate assistantship, you'll get what's called direct pay, which is your twice-a-month paycheck. And then at the beginning of the semester, as part of the compensation package, you also get a partial tuition waiver. That partial tuition waiver, the graduate school refers to as a 50% waiver. It's a little confusing because it's really not 50% of law school tuition. It represents about 50% of graduate school level tuition. We have a much higher tuition rate. So the tuition benefit program will not award you a tuition benefit valued at more than 100%. So if you got a really large scholarship that triggered a 100% tuition benefit or a 75% tuition benefit, the graduate assistant you get, which has a 50% benefit associated with it, puts you over 100%. You can only get up to 100%. It's a little confusing, I know, but is that making sense? There's a limit on the maximum value you can get on that portion of your compensation or scholarship. Okay. You cannot stack like with like. You cannot stack two graduate assistantships together. That kind of goes to our monitoring how much work you've got. A graduate assistantship is roughly a 10-hour-a-week job. So all of a sudden, if you have two of them, you're working 20 hours a week. And then if we can't monitor whether you're working downtown or other things like that. So we limit the graduate assistantships or fellowships you get to just one, right? You can't get two of them together. And you can't get two scholarships that both have tuition benefits associated with them. So like with like don't get stacked. With university and external entities that award you scholarships, you can stack all you want. A lot of our stacking rule has to do with our budget and what we can afford. And so if there's outside money coming in for you, that's fine. If we can work it out, we'll work it out for you to your greatest benefit. For students who are on assured graduate assistantships, so for some students who, as part of their merit on entrance scholarship that was renewable, the second year of their scholarship included an assured graduate assistantship. What that means is you're guaranteed the second year graduate assistantship, but you must still apply for it because the placement for these assistantships is based on a competitive review process. So Jaron will show you how the application process works. There is, as part of this placement, still needing to meet the cumulative GPA requirement for the renewable awards. So for people who are close right now to the required GPA, a placement will occur, but it is tentative or conditioned on meeting the GPA requirement when grades are posted last week of May, first week of June. Around there. Around the first week of June. And so if you don't make grade, if you weren't given the assured, if your placement was tied to the assured graduate assistantship, it can be rescinded. However, as part of this review process, the competitive review nature of this process, you can be awarded a graduate assistantship unassociated with your renewable award. And so we actually had a student that got that this year, that even though they didn't make the GPA requirement to keep their renewable scholarship, which meant the assured graduate assistantship wasn't there, nor was their third year, they still got hired and they had the job and it was the same pay. So that's part of that competitive placement process, okay?
Question.
Yes, where are we at? There. 325. And I think I talked a little bit about this at orientation. For the minimum GPA required for renewables, we do, as part of our indexing process, use in the admissions process, do not award assured or renewable scholarships with a conditional GPA to candidates who do not have a predicted GPA, at least at our minimum. That this isn't a bait and switch, that your entering credentials showed us that you are definitely capable. So we don't have fewer renewable dollars, a situation where we have fewer renewable dollars to go. We're not trying to undercut you guys. All the placements are there for you. You must abide by all fellowship requirements. And so what that means is it's basically 10 hours a week. It's not strictly enforced to the extent that if you work 5 hours one week because you worked it out with your professor, that the project means that you're going to have to put in maybe 15 hours for the next couple of weeks. That's fine, but you still have to complete the 150 hours by the end of the semester. You have to report your hours. There will be an orientation that describes that process. It's run by Ross McPhail, the legal research professor, and do your assignments. It's a job. Actually, your class, no one asked this question, but I've had this question in the past. If somebody wants to forego the assured graduate assistantship for their second year, that's fine. If you say, look, I got actually a great job in another department or with a private entity downtown that's paying me a lot more, so I don't want to have this two-job thing going, you can say, I don't want it. You don't get the money in lieu of it, so you can forego the second year of your scholarship, and as long as you meet all other requirements, GPA and otherwise, the third year of your scholarship will still be in place. You just can't say, can I have a scholarship instead? The reason for it is trying to make the best use of our money. The way the legislature allows us to award scholarships or pay students, that we can only take money out of certain buckets. And by having this GA program, it helps you guys in terms of there's an additional experience that you have, but in addition to that, it allows us to have a resource available to us, a financial resource that by virtue of paying you as opposed to giving you a scholarship, we have more money to work with. And so that's not the scholarship bucket that you were using for your second year, and so that's why you can't say, I want scholarship money instead. This is the assured graduate assistantship. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay, as I alluded to, the fellowship requirements include putting in 150 hours a semester. You will report those hours to Right now, Ross McPhail is a designated administrator, and there's an app system where you log in your hours on a weekly basis, and you'll be shown that during orientation. The Fellows orientation will occur in mid-April after placements have been made. It's usually either the day after or a couple days after classes are over, so it doesn't interfere with classes, and it's before exam starts. So you have kind of that little window of opportunity. That's what we try to work with. So the fellowship compensation package for next year is this. The person who works, the vast majority of our graduate assistantships are one-year assistantships, but sometimes there are one-semester assistantships, either just for the fall or just for the spring, depending on the funding the professor has. So I've broken this down by the semester. So you get direct pay, totaling $4,000 for the semester. That translates to about $26.65 an hour. You officially are a College of Law employee in this capacity. That $4,000 per semester is taxable income, and you are paid on the 7th and the 22nd of each month. Under the graduate school tuition benefit plan for residents, people who are classified as residents of the state of Utah, the value of the tuition benefit is $4,741 based on 15 credit hour employment. That little parentheses is there for the class of 2020. Are there any 2Ls in here right now? Okay. The reason I put that parenthetical is because the 2Ls are still paying tuition by the credit hour. 1Ls are just paying that block rate. Okay. So that 4741 just shows up, will be the amount that shows up on your tuition credit, regardless of how many credits you're enrolled for. But you need to enroll for at least 12 credits to qualify. For the class of 2021, the non-resident tuition waiver, for those of you who are classified as non-residents, will show up as a $6,800 credit to your tuition bill for the semester. Okay, I won't go over the class of 2020 because nobody's here. Meet the requirements. Note that if you fail to meet the requirements of your position, the tuition benefit is rescinded. You get the direct pay that you've earned up to the point of wherever you either quit your job or don't work or whatever happens. But note that the tuition benefit requires that you complete the job over the course of the semester, so that portion can be rescinded. The application process. It's an online process. You get to it from our fellowships page. Jaron Smith is going to be administering that process. He'll show you in a few minutes how to get to that portion of the page and what will be required. Scholarships and awards will have a slightly separate timeline from the graduate assistantships. Announcements are going to be sent out via email to everyone. The selection process for the GAs that will place students in these positions, the committee will include 2 associate deans, faculty representatives from the centers, the Wallace Stegner Center and the BioLaw Center. And some scholarships also require feedback from the benefactors of the scholarship, so know that. The faculty and supervisors for the GAs or the fellowships set the criteria and the requirements for the selection in terms of the background that they're looking for, the projects that they have for next year. The student resource page under fellowships and scholarship will have information on these. The students, to make it easier for you, will be submitting what we call the common application, so you don't have to fill out a separate application for each placement opportunity. It'll have the general information, and then you will rank order your preferred placement locations or areas of interest. The timelines and deadlines for this process. The applications should open up next week, be available. The target is going to be Monday, but next week is when they'll open up. The application deadline for both scholarships and fellowships is going to be March 1st. So get those in. And the March 29th will be the deadline for summer fellowships, the DUSNIP and the CASANI and things like that. Right. We will provide notice to the recipients, or for those of you who are on assured graduate assistantships, you'll be provided notice of where your placement is going to be or with whom your placement is in early April. We try to have it before the 10th of April. That's the goal. And then once you are provided notice of your placement, then you have 1 week to accept or decline the placement offer. And then in mid-April, the fellowship orientation will take place. And then for scholarships, especially the ones that are donor dependent, where we need feedback from the donors, most awards notifications will go out in mid-May. And that's all I have. Barbara.
I can just use this. I'm not going to be long. You can hear me, right? Okay. I'm going to follow up on a couple of things. What Reyes was talking about is mainly the fellowship process. He mentioned a couple of things that are a little different. One was the summer fellowships. The other were scholarships. So summer fellowships, we have 3 of them. 2 of them, the Spurgeon and the Frankel, are public interest oriented. And the 3rd, the Cosme, is environmental. And what makes these fellowships different is that you need to come up with your own placement. Tomorrow, today, sometime soon, I'm going to be sending out an email with a list of former projects so you can kind of get an idea of what other people have come up with. And since you have to come up with your own placement, you have a later deadline. I found that a lot of students use spring break to set these things up, so we like to have the due date after that. So that is not until March 29th. As for the scholarships, Reyes already mentioned that they're pretty much free money, so they tend to be based on the experience you have brought with you to law school. They're in specific areas like family and juvenile, public policy, natural resources, things like that. And a lot of those scholarships have donor input, and, you know, we work with donors and we don't want to piss them off, so we don't like to give them hard deadlines. So sometimes they drag the process out a little bit. So very often you won't find out about your scholarship until, say, late April, mid-May, something like that. So don't get over anxious. I think that's all I have. Any questions about that? Yes? When do we apply for those scholarships? Also March 1st. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Jaren?
All right, so we've actually made this process really easy for you to apply for all of these. So instead of having to do like multiple applications if you want to apply for different fellowships, we have one application to apply for all of the fellowships and one application to apply for all the scholarships, okay? And a different group for just the summer ones. So I'm going to show you that. So this is just the law webpage. Oh, it's not showing. Help me.
Just hiding at the bottom. Oh, there it is. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Em.
All right, so this is just the law.utah.edu. Go to students and then A to Z student resources. And there's going to be a link there to awards, fellowships, and scholarships. If it pops up here. Perfect. Fellowships, scholarships, and awards right there. So in here, you're going to find descriptions for the different fellowships and scholarships. So if you have questions about some of those specific details, this is where you can find all of that information to go along with it. So here you can see it lists the different types of fellowships, the different scholarships, different awards that you can get. So if you need to, follow up on those things, there's those details there. So right here at the very top of the screen, you see links for Common Scholarship application, Common Fellowship application, the Summer Fellowship application, and then if there happens to be something that is not included in this general group, we have a separate application, and we'll send you emails to notify you about things like that. So let's just take a look at this Common Fellowship application. They all look exactly the same, okay? So it's just going to take you to a form, input your information, your ID number, email address. You're just going to give us essentially your student information. You're going to tell us how you've been doing in school, specifics about legal methods and legal research, your grades, who your instructor was for those. And then you'll see that there is a list here of the different fellowships, and you just scroll through those, and you can pick multiple in that list. And then if you do want as well as here, so you can do Bailey, BioLaw, Quinney. You're just selecting the ones that you're interested in, okay? And then just like Reyes said, you're going to go through and you're going to rank those, first choice, second choice, third choice. Do take consideration as you go through that, because when we deliberate to really place people, we do take those numbers into consideration. So make sure you're aware of what those different fellowships are so that you don't put something that you aren't necessarily interested in as your number one. Okay. And then again, if you have any interest in certain areas, select all those. It'll just verify some information. And then kind of the biggest piece down here that can get kind of confusing is your application documents. So I'm actually the person who is lucky enough to kind of combine all this information, get it to the committee members, and put it in an organized fashion so that they can review it all. So a couple things that make my job really easy here is first, any document that you submit, do it in a PDF. If you submit it in like a Word document, a lot of times it doesn't come in the format you want. If you've had someone review it, it'll show like the comments that they've made or track changes. You might not realize, but a lot of times when you send documents, it has all that still in the document, and it just kind of makes it a little awkward when we give that to committee members. As well as if you can just give them an easy naming convention, so I know that it's yours and I know what the document is. So I've just given an example to your last name, first initial, dot, whatever it is. So if it were me and I'm doing a statement of interest for the Quinney Fellowship, I would do Smith J. dot SOI, statement of interest, Quinney. And then I know exactly what it is. I can get it to the right department. And a lot of times there will be different things that sometimes just reading a statement of interest, I'm not able to tell specifically who it's for. So if you can give it a name, that's awesome. Or if it's just a general statement of interest, you can just call it statement of interest, and that's fine. I'll include it with all of those applications. Okay? You'll submit it. You'll receive a confirmation. We receive a confirmation. You can always follow up with me if you have any questions to make sure that we got it or that I got the right documents, those kinds of things. But the scholarship one is exactly the same. So you'll go through, put in this information, select which ones you're interested in. It'll have you sort those as well. Are there any questions about this process? Yeah. Yeah, so it's really going to be who you're working for. So for example, Quinney Fellowship is going to be working for the library. Sometimes that could be with a specific instructor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually it's actually paired with You're paired with an instructor, so that's why we ask what your areas of interest are. If you're really interested in criminal law, then we try to, pair you with Roski or, Cassell, something like that. Those are the Quinney Fellows, and some of the Quinney Fellows are assigned to the library, and you get odd projects that come in, which actually can be more fun because you're working with a variety of faculty members then. Another group of fellowships is the BioLaw, and that's fellowships in the BioLaw medical area. And then some of our departments have fellowships. CDO has a fellow, Pro Bono has a few fellows, things like that. But if you go into the webpage and click on them, there'll be descriptions. Okay. And I have something else to say too.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions about the application? Okay.
Okay. Couple of follow-up things. He mentioned off-cycle. We are well, not continuously, but throughout the year, new funding comes in for new fellowships. And so we may just send out a notice saying, you know, this brand new fellowship just came up, and, you know, send us your resume and stuff. And that's what we call off-cycle. So just because you don't get something in this big, you know, application process that's coming up, don't despair, because stuff will continue to come up throughout the year. There's only room for you to list your top 5 placements that you would prefer. If you have more than that, if you want to apply for more, that's okay. We find that 5 is usually enough. But if you want to submit more applications, just send them directly to Jaron. And the last thing is the statement of interest. We don't necessarily want you to reinvent the wheel every time. You can use the same basic statement of interest for each one of these things, but do tweak them so that they're applicable. You know, don't apply for the Watson Public Interest Scholarship and then talk about how interested you are in natural resources law, because then you just look like an idiot, and that doesn't help. But don't feel like you need to reinvent the wheel every single time. Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll be sending out emails and notices, so don't feel like you had to, you know, remember all these dates. You'll be hearing from us. Okay, thanks. What did you say? Yeah. I'll be gone when you get there. Is this what Bob wants to talk about? Yeah. No, he's talking to everybody. Yeah. Hang in there.
I love you too. You're going to have to buy me lunch. Oh.